Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on TD Fitness. I'm your host, Coach T, and in this episode, we are talking about the surprising truth about weight loss, exercise for weight loss specifically, and what exercise doesn't do and what it's good for. The question we're trying to answer here is really to dig into some common myths about exercise, some of those proven truths, and what it all means to you. The freebie I have for you with this video, this podcast, is a workout plan template for busy lifestyles and a sample week of workouts and exercises. Now, I'm going to jump right into this, and I'm going to start with a statement that may be somewhat controversial in the sense that I think it's something that a lot of people believe, but there's not a lot of truth behind it. So that is this. Many people believe that you can exercise your way out of weight loss, okay, or into weight loss. But exercise doesn't play the dominant role you may think when it comes to weight loss. Exercise can help, but it's not the main factor at all. It can help with weight management, but when it comes to losing weight, exercise again, is not the dominant factor. Now, why do I say that? Number one, it's fact. It's backed by science and research. I will provide the links to my sources in the show notes in case you're interested in that, but I'm not going to bore you here today with the science behind it, okay? But rather than that, what I'd like to do is to give you an example, simple example, and run some numbers. So let's just assume that calories burned equals weight loss, okay? You exercise, you burn calories, and that equals weight loss. I know it's not that simple, okay? But for the sake of simplicity, that's the example we're using. Now, let's say that you jog for 45 minutes and you burn 500 calories. Again, for the sake of simplicity, we're using that example. I understand that different things are going to determine how many calories you burn from exercise, whether or not you're a male or female, how conditioned you are, your height, your weight, things like that. But for our purposes here, you jog for 45 minutes, you burn 500 calories. Let's say you do that for 7 days straight, okay? So at the end of 7 days, you have burned 3,500 calories. Now, you may have heard that 3,500 calories is the exact amount of calories in a pound of fat. I will tell you that that is also debatable, but that is not where we're going with this discussion tonight. The point is that 45 minutes of jogging, burning 500 calories per session for 7 days will result in 1 pound of weight loss in our perfect world example. Even given those perfect conditions, I mean, you got to recognize that that's a lot of work to jog for 45 minutes, 7 straight days. I mean, for a single pound, and that's being conservative, right? Who can sustain that? I can't sustain that indefinitely. I do not have the time to work out for 45 minutes every day. And then at the end of the week, I've lost maybe a pound. That doesn't even account for the fact that your hormones are involved, your body's set point, which is the weight that your body naturally wants to maintain. All those types of things play into whether or not we lose weight. The takeaway is that you cannot simply exercise your way to weight loss. The math doesn't support it. The science doesn't support it, and reality does not support it. Now, that said, there are several things that exercise is good for. There are several benefits, if you will, not the least of which is heart health. The thing to remember here is that the heart is a muscle. So the more it works, the more you exercise the heart, the stronger it gets and the bigger it gets. Yes, your heart actually grows in size when you exercise, and that's a good thing. The heart is responsible for circulation and providing blood to different parts of the body, among other things. But your circulation is also improved from consistent exercise, regular exercise, and physical activity. Circulation essentially means that the different parts of your body that need it are getting oxygen, they're getting the nutrients that they need throughout the body, And oh, by the way, waste from different parts of the body is being removed. So heart health, circulation, that's why it's called cardiovascular activity. Definitely a bonus, definitely a benefit when it comes to exercise. Now, another thing that's a benefit from exercise, mobility, okay? Exercise requires moving, right? You can't simply sit still and say you exercised. Moving in itself means greater mobility because what you're doing is moving your body through ranges of motion that you wouldn't normally move through when you weren't exercising. So mobility is a plus. From that mobility, typically people have less pain because, again, they're moving, they're exercising those joints, stretching those muscles. Mobility, less pain, all benefits from exercise. And you know that strength, athletic performance, those are benefits of exercise as well. What many people don't realize, however, is that your bones are strengthened as well, particularly through weight-bearing exercises. So this is particularly important as we age because our bones become more brittle. They are more susceptible to breaks. So particularly for older and elderly adults. So that's why exercise is important to increase bone strength. Obviously, your fitness levels are going to improve, but the things that we don't think about sometimes are the neuromuscular enhancements. And what I basically mean by that is that there are connections that occur. There are pathways between your brain and the different parts of your body that tell you to move. We don't even think about it a lot of times. It's subconscious or involuntary is a better word. I can think that, okay, I need to move my hand to scratch my head. But if I'm not thinking about it and my head itches, I know to instinctively just reach up and scratch my head. Those neuromuscular pathways are enhanced when we perform exercise. Your body learns how to more efficiently make those connections, and you have a greater neuromuscular capability. Another benefit of exercise, it eases symptoms of depression. Now, this is based on some very new research that I say new, it's been in the past 18 months or so, but the research shows that there is a link between obesity and depression. So exercise can help to ease the symptoms of depression even without weight loss. That is critically important. So we knew that exercise had positive effects on our moods because it releases endorphins, but this research shows that exercise can actually help to decrease or ease the symptoms of depression. I will tell you that a few years ago, I had a client who was on some depression medication, and I can't say holistically that it was from simply training with me, but I do know that after about a month or so, this individual was able to stop taking his depression medication, felt a lot better, and that was because we were exercising together 2 times a week. So I've seen it in my personal life. The research supports it. Exercise also helps to ward off disease because it makes the body stronger, and a stronger body is easier. It's more able to cope with some of those negative things that are trying to come in and make you sick, right? So exercise helps ward off disease. It improves your body composition as well. I know I started by saying that exercise alone is not the best mechanism or the best avenue to weight loss, but body composition and weight loss are 2 different things. Weight only deals with the number on the scale, heavier, lighter, or it stays the same, right? But body composition is different because that talks about the ratio between the lean muscle mass you have, the fatty tissue you have, and the water in your body. So your body composition can improve because as you exercise, you add lean muscle mass and you typically lose fat tissue, right? So, for example, you could theoretically stay the same weight. I've even seen people, I've seen it myself, gain a couple of pounds from exercising, but your body composition is different. you look slimmer, you feel better because you've lost some fat and gained some muscle. So body composition is improved through exercise. And then exercise helps to counter the sedentary lifestyle in non-movement society that we're living in. You may remember a few episodes back, I did an sedentary for so long. A lot of the science is showing these days that the effects of non-movement, of just being seated all day, not exercising, not regularly moving your body through the different ranges of motion, that can be just as detrimental, if not more detrimental, than carrying excess weight. So when you think about it in another way, someone who is overweight but exercises regularly could be healthier than someone who is at a normal weight rather, and never exercises at all. They go to work, they sit behind a computer all day long, then drive home, head inside, sit on the couch for most of the night, then go to bed. That is a bad thing. So exercise helps to counter that sedentary lifestyle and the non-movement. Now, so we've shown that exercise is important in overall health, no doubt, right? But the benefits are not necessarily related to weight loss. So we've talked about the biggest myth, which is that of the exercise and weight loss myth, but there are so many more. And I want to touch on a few of those myths before we leave here today. So the first myth that I want to talk about is that exercising at low intensity burns more fat. This is a little bit confusing to people. In order to explain this, you have to understand what the body is burning for fuel at different times, okay? So proteins, carbs, and fats serve as the fuel for our bodies. That's the reason why we eat. It provides nutrition. Yes, food tastes good as well, but the primary purpose is to provide fuel for our bodies. So while all three of the macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats, provide fuel at any given time, our level of activity determines the percentages in which these nutrients are used. So for example, while you're resting, while you're sitting on the couch, watching this video, 70% of the calories that are burned are coming from fat, okay? When you engage in high intensity exercise, almost all of the energy comes from carbohydrates that have been stored in the body as glucose. So when our bodies are completely at rest, if we're sleeping, if we're just sitting on the sofa watching TV, the average heart rate varies between 30 and 40% of our maximum heart rate. And although fat calories may make up a greater percentage of those total calories burned at the time when the body's at rest, the overall calorie burn is going to be much lower than a calorie burn during exercise. So therefore, fewer total fat calories are burned while we're at rest. Yes, it may be a greater percentage of the total calories that are burned, but overall, there are fewer calories being burned, therefore fewer fat calories. Okay? I did write a blog post about that. I'll link to that in the show notes. I explain it rather well in that post, so I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. But all that said, you know, high intensity interval training burns more calories, right? More total calories. But as we stated in the beginning, the biggest myth is that that exercise is going to help you with weight loss. So, but those calories don't necessarily equate to large amounts of weight loss. But the benefits of that high intensity interval training, it doesn't even have to be that high intensity. It could just be interval training that is sporadically placed into your workout. The benefits are that you get higher heart rates and you get to exercise the heart at different levels, different capabilities. So that in itself is a bonus. Also, interval training, high intensity interval training, it takes less time, so you're more apt to do it. That's just my personal experience. Breaks up the monotony, and you get the added benefit of some continued calorie burn throughout the day as well. So another myth, though, is that you have to exercise at high intensity to see any benefit. My response to that is for what, right? Because we've already said that exercise is not the primary factor in weight loss. So exercise alone is not going to cut it. It's not even going to come close to cutting it when it comes to losing weight, right? So no matter how hard or how long you train, it doesn't matter. Now, keep in mind that I'm talking about regular people like you and me. I'm not talking about athletes who spend 20 plus hours a week training. That's different. I'm talking about regular, busy people like you and me. So the takeaway from that is that a moderate effort with occasional intensity is good for heart health. Okay, that benefits me, that benefits you. So is low intensity training. Each type of mode and modality and type of exercise has a place, has a benefit. You just have to understand what the benefits are with low intensity training, for example, versus high intensity training. They're all good for you. And particularly if you're not doing anything right now, if you're not exercising at all, then incorporating any type of exercise is going to be better than doing nothing. Another myth. If I can't exercise for an hour, then it's pretty much a waste of time. Well, who has an hour to exercise every day these days? I certainly don't. I have 2 young children, a family, full-time job, and that's a lot of time. It's a big time commitment. Less is often more. Shorter workouts are good for busy lifestyles, for travel. They're easier to implement when you're starting brand new with a fitness routine or exercise routine. And the science does show the benefits of incorporating shorter, high-intensity bouts of exercise. This is something that's developed over the last 8 to 10 years or so, at least amongst fitness professionals. We've come to understand that, for example, training for a marathon doesn't necessarily mean you have to pound the pavement for miles and miles in order to prepare yourself for a long race like that. I'll give you another example. I put together our training plans for Ironman distance races. Most of the traditional training plans will call for anywhere between 15 and 20 hours of exercise per week, depending on whether or not you're doing a half Ironman or a full Ironman. That's a lot of time. I don't have time to do that. So I set out to create a plan for busy lifestyles, for busy people, incorporating some of these principles of interval training and high intensity intervals to replace some of those longer sessions. Over the past 3 years, myself and others have completed Ironman distance races or half Ironman distance races, and everyone who's followed the plan has completed it. Those plans require, the half Ironman requires 5.5 hours average workout time per week over the course of 6 months, and the full is about 7 hours over the course of 10 months average per week. That's a big difference, right? And it's because we've gotten smarter about incorporating some of those higher intensity exercise sessions, and they can replace the long, slow distance ones that we're used to. So you don't have to necessarily exercise for a long time to reap benefits. Another myth, you have to go to the gym. Now, for those just starting an exercise routine, or if you're looking to maintain general health as you age, you can do almost everything at home. Body weight training is extremely beneficial. 2 years ago, I wrote an ebook entitled TD Fit, a complete fitness blueprint for time-crunched individuals. And that book uses this very approach. It incorporates exercises you can do at home without a gym or on the road or in a hotel. By the way, that ebook with there was a fellow personal trainer there who we worked together. We were both training folks who came to the gym for personal training. This individual, he eventually went on to compete in amateur bodybuilding contests. And my wife and I went and supported him. He did very well. One of the things that he relayed to me was how important it was to have your diet dialed in. I mean, really on point in order to get the definition and the bulk that he wanted to have for the competition. So if it were true that just lifting weights would cause you to bulk up, then bodybuilders would have it easy, right? I mean, I remember being a few years ago, I remember just trying to add on muscle mass, but it's so hard for me to do that. The reason is your body type determines how easily you add muscle. Lifting weights isn't going to bulk you up unless you're very specific about it. You do it a lot, and your diet, again, is on point. Muscle is made up of protein. You need to take it in, particularly at the right times to add muscle mass. If you're just doing strength training a couple of times a week for general fitness, you don't have to worry about looking like a bodybuilder, okay? Moving on, another myth: to get great abs, do crunches every day. Okay, what is this, 1985, right? Okay, hopefully we understand that that's not the case anymore. Everyone has a six-pack. Newsflash, really it's an 8-pack. But the problem is that 6 or 8-pack is usually just hidden by a layer of fatty tissue. So if you want to see abs, then lose the belly fat. The 6-pack doesn't come from crunches. It comes from a solid diet. And then similar to that myth is the one that says you can spot reduce, meaning, okay, I have some love handles here. I'm just going to do some obliques, some side crunches. That should knock it out. Spot reduction is a myth. It doesn't exist. The body determines when and where you will lose weight from, and it takes it from areas where you have the most to give. And the important thing to understand, however, is that that doesn't necessarily correspond to the areas you think you have the most to give. So you can't spot reduce. That's a myth. Wrote a post on that one as well. I'll make sure to include the link in the show notes. All right, enough about the myths. Here are some facts that I want to leave you with. There are 3 big ones, and I'll link to the scientific articles in the show notes. But these are from an article published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The first is this: genetic factors play a large role in body type and in your ability to lose or gain weight, and in your propensity for obesity. But your heredity is not your destiny. Okay, that's what I want to leave you with. Just because obesity may run in your family, that doesn't mean that you have to be overweight or obese. Okay. Next, regardless of body weight or weight loss or lack thereof, an increased level of exercise increases health. It offers a way to mitigate the health damaging effects of obesity, again, even without any weight loss. So if you're overweight or obese and you exercise, that's a good thing. We just have to understand that that exercise may not necessarily be the way that we're going to lose the weight, but the exercise is absolutely good for you, and I encourage you to do that. Third, even though it may not be an effective strategy in itself for weight loss, physical activity and exercise in sufficient doses aids in long-term weight maintenance. Meaning, if you are close to a normal weight, or if you're at a healthy weight, if you exercise, it goes a lot further to keep you at that healthy weight than it would if you were overweight and trying to reduce your weight back to a healthy weight. So exercise is absolutely beneficial and very effective in long-term weight maintenance. It's just not the most effective strategy for weight loss. So understanding all of that exercise is vitally important, and just maybe not for what we thought it was important for, I wanted to provide you with something today that could help you with your exercise goals. So it's an exercise plan template and a sample week of exercises. The goal is to give you an idea of what's involved in a plan that meets the exercise recommendations put forth by the Department of Health and Human Services, for one. It includes a complete approach, meaning it incorporates cardiovascular training, strength training, and core training, and it's realistic for those of us with busy lifestyles. Because if we're not going to follow the plan, if there's no way we can possibly fit it in, then it's not going to do anyone any good, right? So you can grab that freebie at tdfitness.net/013 download. And I have to remind you that before you start any exercise program, you should absolutely consult your physician. So this simple sample template is good for those of us who struggle with what to do, with how to break up the types of exercises we're supposed to do, and examples of what I do as a busy individual seeking balance in both an exercise program and in life. So again, you can grab that at tdfitness.net/013 download. As always, the show notes for this episode will be hung at tdfitness.net/013. So I encourage you to go there to check out any of the links or references that I mentioned. And I'll leave you with just a couple things. Reaching a healthy weight is not always easy. I understand that. But hopefully this video, or if you're listening via podcast, hopefully this will help you set reasonable expectations about physical activity. Now, since exercise is not the biggest part of the healthy living plan, though it's certainly a part, in the next episode, we're going to address the nutrition aspect and the key to weight management. Therein lies a big part of the solution. So I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to sign off now. I want you guys to have a blessed one. Coach T out.